Hey guys, I have with me here my 2026 Suzuki GSXR 600, and I'm gonna go over why I bought this bike new in 2026 over options like the Kawasaki ZX6R, the Yamaha R9, the CBR600RR, or the R6. For those of you guys that are new to my channel and haven't seen my previous videos, I used to have a 2003 Kawasaki ZX6R and a Yamaha R7 2024. Both I bought used, and I had for the last couple of months. So what happened was, the 2003 Kawasaki I was riding, had a lot of fun with, but I crashed it. And while I crashed it, I was thinking to myself like, hey, I really miss riding. I know this fix is going to take a lot of time because the parts are so rare. So, you know, I have the fun, so I went and bought a Yamaha R7 because I never had a cross-plane engine bike before, and I was sort of like curious how it would be like. And I had a lot of fun with the Yamaha R7. I filmed a lot of content with it. You know, I had a full system exhaust Yoshimura on it, but it was missing a little bit of something that I felt like the ZX6R had, right? It doesn't, the Yamaha R7 doesn't have that like scream, you know? It's not a 4-cylinder. And I found that I really missed that. And I confirmed that feeling once I got my ZX6R back from the shop and I could actually ride it again. I found that I was having a lot more fun with that bike than I was having on the Yamaha R7. Now don't get me wrong, the R7 is a really good bike, especially if it's your first like sport bike. But for me, you know, I felt like I needed something else, right? Now, the ZX6R was actually in perfect condition. It had very low kilometers. It was on its original engine, only had like 5,000 km. I put another like 2,000 after I got it back. I let my friend borrow it too, actually. But there were certain things about that bike that I feel like wasn't worth putting money towards. Like, it had no steering stabilizer. It didn't have a slipper clutch. It didn't have a gear indicator, those things. The suspension was incredibly stiff. And the seat height was quite tall and the tank was really wide. I'm only 5'6", right? So I had a lot of trouble with that bike, just moving it around and stuff, backing it up out of like spaces, that kind of thing. So when I was looking for newer bikes, I was thinking of originally getting the Yamaha R9, right? Because it has around like the same horsepower as a 600 with a lot more torque. But I ultimately decided against that decision. I actually went to a Yamaha demo day and I test rode an MT-09, but I felt like the throttle was like incredibly like touchy, and I think it's because of the ECU mapping. The fueling is very lean from the factory. And if you guys know anything about the Yamaha R9 or the CP3 in general, there's actually a dead spot in second gear, I think, where there's like a ton of power missing basically. And on top of that, the stock exhaust is like super restrictive and it sounds like horrible. When you consider the fact that in order to get the actual performance out of the bike and make it run the way it's supposed to run, you have to like spend well over like $2,000 for the exhaust. You gotta pay for the install if you don't do it yourself. You gotta like flash the ECU, and then you lose your warranty when you do that. So ultimately I decided not to go with the R9 because of those reasons. On top of the fact that it's like super limited and basically it's like really hard to get. Now I could have gone for a newer ZX6R. I find that the newer ones are a little bit better set up from the factory in terms of suspension. If you guys don't know, the ZX6R was recalled for like basically 3 years, 2023 to 2026. I think twice actually. And people's engines were failing and all things like that. I understand that this is like a very small percentage of engines that Kawasaki made that's like this. And supposedly they fixed everything with the recall, but I didn't want that in the back of my head while I was riding, especially since I tend to ride into like pretty rural areas that don't have a lot of like connectivity with cell phone signal service and things like that. And I didn't want to be stranded in the middle of nowhere with some seized engine, potentially. Even if it was just like a 1%, 2% chance of that happening, I just like didn't want to take that risk, right? For the other two bikes, they're not sold in Canada anymore. The CBR600RR, like America complains about how they get like the unupdated version or whatever, but we don't even get that, much less the updated version that they get in Japan. We haven't had the CBR600RR in Canada for over, I think, like 9 years. I think the last model year in Canada was like 2016, 2017, something like that. And obviously R6 prices are absolutely out of control. People are asking like $20,000 for like a 6-year-old R6, that kind of thing. So I felt like the Gixxer was the best option for me here because it had the lowest seat height. You could get it new with a warranty. The ergonomics aren't as aggressive, I'd say, compared to the ZX6R. It's actually quite comparable to the R7. I really liked the raw analog feeling that my Kawasaki ZX6R gave me, and I feel like this gives me a lot of that, but with some updates that make it a lot better for daily riding. Like I mentioned before, the seating position and the suspension are a bit more comfortable. It's still an aggressive super sport position, but it's nowhere near as bad. And it does have certain things that the ZX6R doesn't have. For example, it has a steering stabilizer, KYB. It has a gear indicator, and it has a slipper clutch. And I feel like those things are what I'm looking for, and that's basically all the technology that I really need. It has ride modes. I haven't really gotten the chance to really use them. I know B mode lowers the power to I think 60% throttle or something like that, which is nice for rainy days, but it hasn't really been too bad weather recently here that I would have to like use something like that, so time will tell how that works out. I'm still kind of breaking in this bike. As you can see, I only have like 536 kilometers on it. I'm gonna put a couple hundred before I go get it serviced, and hopefully I'll be able to enter this bike's power band fully. I do have to say that the power band of this bike comes on a lot later than the ZX6R. If you're looking to purchase this specific bike, just know that it doesn't have as strong of a mid-range as the ZX6R, but I don't really think that's like a huge problem. Like, I don't feel like this bike really lacks in torque at all. It's a very smooth bike at low RPMs too. It's very docile and very easy to daily. I don't think it runs as hot as my ZX6R did either, which is nice. Would you look at that? Everything about this bike feels really good. The clutch isn't super heavy. The gearbox is amazing. I've done a few clutchless shifts. It seems pretty good to me. Brakes feel good. Suspension feels good. Everything feels really good. I never feel like I'm missing anything by buying this rather than a more modern quote-unquote bike. Sure, not having a fuel gauge is like kind of a problem sometimes, I guess, but I just use the trip odometer personally. And yeah, I don't have a quick shifter, but I know how to clutchless shift, and I can always add a quick shifter to this bike later on if I wanted to. I personally really love analog tachometers. I love seeing the needle fly up. I like how they look, and I feel like in general, vehicles these days are everything's like all like iPads and screens and that kind of stuff, you know. And a lot of it is because automakers want to like save money and make themselves look more advanced than they really are. So yeah, you know, to a degree I kind of get it, but also, you know, look at how amazing this looks. There's something beautiful about how simple it is, you know. I was actually watching a review on the KTM 990, the new RCR, the sport bike, and you know, the screen to me was just absolutely ridiculous. Like, why do we need touch screens on motorcycles? All that stuff is just like crap that you'll have to like fix if it ever breaks. And you know, it's KTM, you know, who knows, right? All the electrical issues and whatnot. From my understanding with this bike, it seems like it's pretty bulletproof as long as you do maintenance. The electrical issues of this bike, from what I can tell, with the stator and rectifier, have been solved as of this generation. I don't think it has the same electrical issues that the previous generations of Gixxers had. Overall, I think I'm pretty happy with my purchase. I'll update you guys on my experiences with this bike after I've owned it for a longer period of time. Because I sold my other two bikes, this will be my only bike for now. And I don't really want to own two bikes at the same time, to be honest. I don't really have time to ride both. And I don't really want to deal with the hassle of maintaining two bikes and keeping two maintenance schedules. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hope you guys tune in for future videos regarding this bike. Peace.